Okay, so now I'd like to move on to our next speaker, who is Iftaz. So Iftaz Hussain works at Bradford Council, the City of Bradford Metropolitan District Council, actually. Iftaz is an application and support services manager for IT services, and she's going to share with us a little bit about her working experiences and some of her perspectives from a local authority. So clearly we've heard a lot about the health perspective, but we thought it would be interesting to look at a different side of the public sector and hear from some ladies in Yorkshire from a local authority perspective. Are you there, Iftaz?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Super duper. Thank you. So, Leon, if you could just skip over Chimene's slide, she will be joining us imminently, and onto the there we go. Oops. Yeah. That's great. Thank you. And I'll hand over to you now, Iftaz. It's lovely to see you. Thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Good morning, everyone. It is a privilege to be speaking here today. Thank you to Paul, who I met at the Yorkshire and Humber Digital Care Board back in January, which feels like a long time ago. But yeah, Paul asked if I could contribute to this wonderful event, promoting BAME leadership in technology from a local authority perspective. So here I am. If we can move on to the next slide, please. But just to see where I fit into the IT structure, so I am the Application Support and Development Services Manager, so I'm there in the centre. I report to the Head of Service. So I manage 43 staff split into 4 teams. My direct reports are 4 IT managers. The teams specialise in supporting and managing hundreds of applications for the City of Bradford, and that's both in-house and third-party specialist applications. So some are very service-specific. So we've got adult social care, children's social care, education, planning, highways. So we've got a vast variety and quite complex. And we've also got a lot of the corporate-wide applications as well. If we move on to the next slide. So in terms of IT services, so roughly 36% of the Bradford district is from the BAME background, and as an IT service at the senior leadership team in IT services, we do represent that really well. In fact, the whole of the IT services department is around 37% BAME origin, and that's critical, and we are really wonderfully diverse as a service department. And as we've said many times in the previous presentations, that is crucial going forward, particularly for effective service delivery to our citizens and district which we serve. We are, however, falling slightly short on the what we call the wider leadership team level in IT. So these are staff that report to us. However, we have got half a dozen vacancies at that level currently, and we're hoping to bridge that gap and ensure to represent that makeup of our district. So anyone looking for any new opportunities within IT, please do look out for our vacancies on our council's website in the coming weeks, and we would most welcome your interest or anyone you know. An area of concern that we do have is the gender imbalance. Now, this is something that we do need to address and be mindful of during our recruitment process. We are aware there is a national shortage of female students choosing career in technology. A couple of years ago, I was reading on PwC, having done a survey on students, and found only 3% females were choosing technology as a first career option. So this is worrying, and this was evident 2 years ago when we recruited around 7 apprentices across IT services department, and all 7 were male. So we did struggle. So this is really important for more female role models in IT field to come forward, and I have personally been involved in that since last year, and that's primarily been through a head partnership, working at secondary schools in Bradford, and also working closely with Bradford Careers and Education Tech, supporting their content of their courses and making sure the skills are going to be needed for us as employers to work with. Moving on to the next slide, please. So as a BAME and as a female role model in an IT and leadership role, I thought it'd be useful to give you a quick overview of my personal career journey. This slide looks busy, but I'll only pick out the few key points. So I completed my A-levels in '95 and I stumbled upon the opportunity for a trainee analyst programmer, and that was a positive action or positive discrimination to attract the significantly underrepresented. So I was successful and a perfect fit. I became the only female in that team. There was one other BAME member at that time. So literally from then, my career really just took off. And as you can see, there's a number of courses and training sponsored by all by the City of Bradford for my personal development and career advancement. Of course, it's been a difficult journey. You have to work hard, and I have worked hard. There's times where like work has been my life. But as opportunities arose, I was keen to pursue and advance. Doing the MBA course was instrumental in my career in management, and then I have to mention the Empowering Women in a Digital World. That was run by Socketum, and that was a turning point in my career as a leader and as a female BAME leader, managing line managers and bigger teams. So that course just really homed in on your beliefs. As looked at your upbringing, and as Asian females, we are conditioned in a certain way, but it really helps you to challenge those beliefs and make sure that you're working towards remapping your inner beliefs to succeed and to achieve what your goals are. So, the Socketum Leadership and Management Programme is championed by Nadira Hussain, and they're fantastic. There are several programmes and mentoring programmes to support its members. So, for me personally, the collaboration and creating those external network opportunities have been sort of really invaluable. And just to touch on that, I'm fairly active with voluntary work. I do use my skills for the betterment of the local community, and that is something that I will continue to do. Can we move on to the next slide? If I was to pick out just really 3 success factors in my career journey, I would put it down to firstly personal ambition and drive to succeed. The mindset of wanting to do my job exceptionally well, and always looking ahead to what I need to get involved with to further develop and be even better. I have been very fortunate to have some amazing managers. I must admit they've all been male, white male, middle-aged, but they've all been fantastic, brilliant in recognising talent, supporting flexible working when you need it. They've been great mentors. I've learned something from each and every one of them, so it's been a great journey. And then also, importantly, working for an employer who's, the chief executive and the senior leadership is taking equality, diversity and the workforce development seriously. So, in '96, taking action to create numerous positive action opportunities to address underrepresentation. And then more recently, over the summer, the chief exec and its senior leaders have been really dedicated to having numerous quite difficult talking sessions with different groups of people, based on their protected characteristics and listening to their views and experiences, which I'll touch on a bit later. If you can move on to the next slide. So I thought it'd be useful to just touch on what the makeup of Bradford Council is, and what senior leaders are planning to do. So what's our data saying? So our workforce is wonderfully diverse. We recognise that this is critical in designing digital services, delivering our digital strategy and making digital transformation in our diverse district. We do recruit from across our communities, where roughly 83% of staff call the district their home. 24% of senior staff are from the BAME background, and this is very senior staff at PO 6th grade and above. 5 years ago, it was only 15%. And then at the chief officer level, 5% are BAME background. 5 years ago, there were none. So, there has been some progress in the last 5 years. It's been good progress, but it's not enough. We need to get to a point where we are representing our district, because we ultimately serving them, and if we don't understand them or don't look as an organisation, don't look like them, then it's difficult to really engage. Going on to the next slide. So I just thought I'd put some of the initiatives our Bradford Council's having in this space in terms of equality and leadership space. So we've got a cross-department equality group. This was set up nearly 4 years ago, chaired by chief officers, and there's a number of representations from across the whole of the organisation. It's very mixed. We meet periodically, have some really healthy discussion on equality issues and make recommendations for the chief exec and the senior leadership to make those changes. There is a network that we built of coaches to offer support to the council-wide workforce that need that extra guidance and support periodically. We've got a number of organisation-wide management programmes, upskilling managers and leaders and making sure we are operating consistently. And then also more recently, and this has been primarily triggered by COVID and unfortunately the death of George Floyd, which really magnified the inequalities in our organisations and in our society. So this is where I mentioned, Chief Exec and the officers held some sessions with numerous protected characteristic groups, whether it's BAME, young people, women, LGBT, and etc. And really heard some very uncomfortable experiences through which they've been dedicated to taking some significant action and to try and strengthen our position, our policies, our work on equalities. So we've come up with a equality objective and a plan with some clear KPIs. This is currently in draft and it's been consulted with the cross-department equality group. It's going to go to exec in December. So it does really feel like a positive step and quite far-reaching into making that impact in the district. So I've listed some of the key aspects of zero tolerance, making sure our interview panels are diverse, programme of training and career paths for every single member of the workforce, having self-directed support networks and groups. So it really does look like as if it's heading in the right direction and it will have a huge impact on the district. Move on to the next slide, please. Put this slide in just to show how important it is to use data to advise what impact various leadership programs or various initiatives are having on staff and their careers and supporting them on their development, and for organisations to really continue to invest in programs and create such opportunities. So the data there and the stats are quite self-explanatory, but something I'm keen on seeing and it was touched on earlier this morning. These programs to be cross-organisational, more collaborative programs, secondment opportunities across, local authorities, and NHS, universities, private sector, voluntary sector. Collectively, we've got a huge role to play in addressing these inequalities and upskilling, creating opportunities, and the wealth of knowledge and experience that, we will generate and then we can share and bring back to organisations will be so significant and invaluable. So it's really pleasing to hear some of the opportunities that were mentioned earlier this morning. If we move on to the last slide. Okay, so as a last slide, some key points I thought I'll reiterate as takeaways. For an individual, always have a plan, career and personal development plan, and map out how you're going to get there. Yes, expect some obstacles, but don't let that drag you down. Always maintain a positive outlook because it will show, and unexpected doors will and opportunities will open. They will surely open. And then we've been mentioning this chair since yesterday. If you've been waiting long enough, you take that chair because you deserve it. So don't hold back if things are not going in the direction. And then for managers, I think you hold the vital key in all this. It's so important to recognise talent and that diverse teams can bring, and then going on to support your staff and their career paths. Yes, we've all experienced training budgets being stripped from us. At times, times have been hard and it will continue to be hard. But I think it's about time that we fought for a training budget for our staff and our teams because they need to develop. We've made an acceleration in the digital transformation in the last 6 months, and I can see it sort of, steaming ahead. So we need those training budgets to make sure we're well equipped to deliver those digital services for our citizens. And lastly, for organisations, it's so paramount that equality and diversity is central to all our policies and processes and plans. If all organisations took a really tough approach, I'm pretty sure in the few years to come, equality, diversity, inclusivity was to be so embedded, it'll be the norm. People, organisations, communities, society will just really flourish, and we need to do this now. So that the upcoming generation, I've got 2 young boys, let's get this right now, so the next generation not having to do these debates, not having to have these debates and suffer the same struggles and obstacles that some people have described. So on that note, I shall end, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, Iftaz. That's great, and a really nice point to end on, I think. Yeah, let's not have our kids have to do this, and let's do it for them. Absolutely. So, Leon, if you could just flick back up to the beginning of the slides for Iftaz and Chimene, because Chimene's here now. Welcome. I know you were here before, but we couldn't see or hear you, so I'm hoping you can be seen and heard. We'd love to hear from you. So if I can hand over to you now. Are you here, Chimene?
I am. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Hey.
So much. Over to you now. Lovely to see you, Chimene.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. So my name is Chimene Blain, and I work for City Council as a senior business analyst. I joined the call yesterday, and some of the points that the speakers made really did resonate with me, certainly when it comes to, someone mentioned being the only turban in the room, the only woman in the room, the only black person, the only black woman in the room. I come from Gabon, which is a small country in Central Africa, and we speak French, so apologise already for the accent. There's trying to fix it, but 20 years in this country and I still have a bit of French accent when I speak. Bear with me there. So I came in the UK at 16 because as a goal I wanted to come to university in the UK. So my first year was my A-levels and learning English. And I lived in a small town in Northamptonshire, and I really do remember what marked me was 16 of age, having an elderly person cross the road because they don't want to be on the same side of the pavement with you because they feel intimidated by you. I didn't feel that intimidated as a 16-year-old girl that's just left her mum and dad. And the first time I offered my seat in the bus so that an elderly person won't have to stand, and just the way they refused. When for me that was, we were brought up to respect our elderlies and give them keep the door open for them, and so for me it was new learnings, new ways, different. I was put off by it. For me, it was all education, and it was first signs that culturally there were some differences, but I was ready to embrace all that. I went to university, and I remember being the one of 3 women on the course, and I was the only one to complete the course. The other 2, one left after the first term, and the other one just never really settled. Whether the course was really geared up for women, or was it, strongly to encourage young men? There was something anyway to be such as it was. There were hundreds of us on that course, and just 3 women. These are the things these were my takeaway at the time. I then graduated and went on to work for Shell, and I was the only woman in my service, the only one to go to remote sites to install telecommunication equipment. The only woman amongst men who hadn't been home for about 3 months. So I'll let you imagine the conversations about me not bending down, me locking my bedroom door. So, very interesting conversations. But then I came back to UK to work permanently. And I remember applying for jobs with my maiden name and not having one interview, not being seen by anyone. But as soon as I changed that name on the top of the CV to my married name, then interviews came, and I was lucky enough to become a contractor for one of our blue chip companies. I won't name them because we didn't part in the best of ways, in that it was all fine until I became pregnant with my first child. And then when I came back from maternity leave, it was clear they didn't want me there. They wanted my boss at the time, his wife, was looking after children at home and not in the office. So he felt strongly that my place wasn't in the office and my place was at home. So I left and I found a job in the public sector where flexible working was accepted, was encouraged. However, I do remember walking through the door the first time. We had one of those big open plan offices, and I felt that I was being assessed. Now, I do like my ethnic clothes. I'm not wearing any today, but normally I like my ethnic clothes because they are part of me. They're who I am. They resonate with my culture, and I'm comfortable in them, certainly in warmer months. But I was encouraged to tone my ethnic clothes down. And I remember not being invited to join and participate in certain things. And I thought to myself, again, it's just because they don't know me. And you know what? I'm going to bring my own chair. I'm not going to wait to be asked. I'm going to do something about this. And I started training younger people who are coming into the team, working with schools and colleges, encouraging apprenticeships, so that younger people will not be scared of coming to work in IT. Younger girls, Black people, we don't have enough people in IT, enough Black people in IT. So I wanted Black people to see me as a term of reference, leading by example, telling them I'm okay and I'm enjoying it and it's quite cool. So working with schools and colleges, making those bonds to encourage young people to come in, even if it's for a week or two, just to have a flavour of what we do, made a big difference. I've seen numbers of Black people increasing every year and girls coming in. We went from hardly any to 2 to 3 girls in the team per year. And that was really, really powerful. And then encouraging them to train themselves internally and work anywhere within the organisation, not just within IT. And then I moved on to looking at empowering women. Because as a woman, not only I know what it's like, I know how we think, and I know sometimes we hold ourselves back thinking that we're not good enough. So I worked on that side of me and I thought I should share some of that with other people. And I started running some empowering sessions for women in the region, and they've been quite popular, and there's been people from all over the country coming to them. I've paired up with coaches to help those women, and some of the women I've helped are still in contact with those coaches and are today making a difference wherever they are. And then I thought, well, knowledge is there, so I've started working as an equality champion within the organisation, championing all sorts of causes from the Disability Network, the Women's Network in Leeds, and more recently the BAME Network. Now I'm saying more recently the BAME Network because honestly, initially I was not involved in the BAME Network because I just felt that it was a tick box exercise. The BAME Network itself didn't appeal to me. It wasn't vibrant. There were no action, nothing. So I had a conversation with one of my HR colleagues who had similar views, and we found that a lot of us felt that way. So the BAME Network is now going through a new phase. We've reviewed the method statements. We know what we want out of the BAME Network. We've spoken to CLT and we've asked them to come up with some clear, smart sort of objectives that we'll be able to measure in a year's time. So we don't want to be back in the same place where nothing has changed, nothing has moved. Iftaz touched on some of the things we've discussed about having a plan to train, develop, bring people on. So this is what we're expecting to see in writing from our CLT, promoting BAME internally, getting managers to speak. what happened earlier on this year in terms of George Floyd, it's mainly because we don't speak. We have, we think speaking of certain things is taboo. So we need to speak, we need to share how we feel, we need to educate people, we need to influence people around us. The other thing I wanted to say is, I feel strongly that it's not the role of one person to make certain change. We're all leaders in our own right, hence those sessions I led for empowering women. We're all leaders and we can all make a change. We all have a responsibility to bring that share. We don't have to wait. The speaker yesterday, the last one, spoke about skin. Skin being a big thing, it's a big organ, and people focus on skin. It's just a shell. But it's both ways. My husband, when he comes to Gabon with me, he's positively discriminated against because he's white. So we do it as well. And it's, we've got this fascination for skin, and we need to peel it off and look beyond that in everything we do. And like it was said yesterday when we closed the session yesterday, we have to be kind. We have to be kind to ourselves, so that we bring the best of ourselves into work, into everything we do, but also so that it influences positively everyone around us, and they'll bring the best of them too. Now, the people who yesterday judged and assessed me or made decisions based on certain opinions, they don't even remember. It's gone, because they've had the opportunity to get to know me for who I am. They appreciate what I do, and things are different. The balance has started being restored, and the little changes I made to my approach has taught them, and will have taught others around them, to be different and be accepting, I hope, of others, so that future generation, like Iftaz was saying before, will have a better time, will be more on an even keel when they come into working for us or interacting with people. That's basically the feeling I want to leave you with. It's all our responsibility, and let's take a lead.
Thank you so much, Chimene. You're absolutely right. It is all our responsibility. And, for those people that were unkind to you, that they have probably forgotten, you clearly haven't forgotten. But it's all about, demonstrating how to behave to others, isn't it? And it's not really much. It's not that difficult. It's just about being kind. Absolutely. So thank you, Chimene, and thank you, Iftaz, for sharing your own personal journey. It's really lovely to hear your accent. It's beautiful. Please don't change it. And also equally lovely to hear Iftaz's accent from Bradford. I went to school in Bradford, so it was really nice to hear. And we had loads of comments about both of your accents. So thank you very much.